Okay, let's look at another aspect of this particular animation. So for this file, for this this tutorial, I've isolated the propeller, and I'm going to just basically set up something called a parameter out of curve animation for this propeller, and I'll show you what that means in a moment. Okay, so here we go. So for this, if you look over on your left hand side of the screen, I've basically got the propeller and I've collapsed it to an editable poly. The layer that's currently hidden, when you go through it, you will see another propeller, which is basically the construction of the original propeller and how it was made using the various elements, but that's for another time, just so you know it's in there. But anyway, we're going to be using this, and it's got two components. It's got the propeller blade and it's got a pinion in the middle. The pinion's not going to move, the blade is going to rotate around the pinion. Okay, so to get this going, we're going to use our set key, but before we do that, we're going to use our key filters. And the only thing I want to do is rotate the blade, so it's the only set key that I'm interested in. Turn my set key on, go to 0, and hit set key, or the shortcut is K. For this, I'll just move to say frame 20, and I will rotate the propeller on the Z axis. So if you look down beneath, you'll see it rotating, and I don't want to go all the way around, I just want to go like half the way around or something like that. And that's enough for this particular way of animating. I'll show you why in a moment. So turn my set key off, just do a quick, oh, missed that, turn my set key back on, my mistake. Get the rotation in, hit set key, too busy talking, there we go. So I should just have a little animation, that's all I need at this point in time. Okay, to complete this animation, we're going to use the curve editor, so load our graph editor, curve editor, and I'll just pull it across onto, oh, don't like it when it does that. Don't like it when it beds in there. Oh goodness. Come out of there, curve editor, there we go. I want it to go full screen. Okay, so if you look on the left hand side, the propeller 1 as it's called, the Z rotation is currently like so. If I just minimize that slightly, just shrink that down so we can see the two elements together, just so you can see that there. Oh, I could mount it up there and make life a bit easier for you to see what's going on. Okay, so as I move the playhead, you can see the value on within the curve editor is reading from 0 to frame 20, and there is a value shift of 0 to 100. And if we go into our keys down here and we right click on this, we can see that at the time of 0 the value is 0, but if I click to the second keyframe, I've got a value of 100 at keyframe 20. At frame 20 I've got a value of 100. So as I change this value, the propeller slides. That's all I need to know at this point, is that that is influencing the propeller's position, which is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a value in there of 359. We will be changing this later on, but just to show you the principle, we'll go with 359. I'm hitting the tab key to enter that value. So now when I move the playhead, I've got almost a full revolution over 20 frames. Okay, that's okay for now. I'm going to just zoom out in this viewport a little bit. So if I go into my view, frame, and frame horizontal extents or frame horizontal extents keys, that's what I want. I want to do that, and then I also want to go to the values, and I can't quite see my little zoom key, so I'm going to rely on, I'm going to have to go full frame, full viewport here, just to show you everything. Okay, so I want to be able to zoom out, hit this frame value extend selected key so we can see everything in the viewport. Sorry, it's that one that we wanted to do, horizontal extend keys, and then just zoom out. So we can now see the full animation of 300 frames. We can see that over 100 frames, thinking of the plane animation, over 100 frames, we've got over 20 frames, we've got our propeller moving almost 360 degrees. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to repeat this forever, in effect, for forever, as long as we want the animation to run. We want this propeller to be spinning, but we don't want to make lots and lots of keys. So what I want us to do is select both keys, set the tangents to linear, and I also need to use this little button over here called parameter curve out of range types, and this is the key that we need to worry about. So let me just, before I do it, I'll just move this down back there again, use our parameter curve out of range, and we can have a little look at what this actually does. So I'll just hit play for a moment. Oh, it looks like I can't hit play on there. Can I hit play? No, I'll hit play here. I'll hit parameter curve out of range. I'm not sure if it's not going to keep running. So at the moment, we've hit linear, and it's just basically taking those two keyframes and making it into a linear continuous animation, which is kind of what we need. Let's have a little look at, if we wanted this to run beyond 100 frames forever, we would use this parameter curve outer range types. And here we've got a whole bunch of interesting possibilities. We've got things like ping pong. That's kind of nice. It's kind of, if you want to do something with an animation and you don't want to actually have to keyframe every single move, but you want something to happen like that. Okay, so it's a really useful tool. So we've got a loop function, cycle function, and to be honest, the loop and cycle, they kind of look very similar to me at this point. We've got our constant function. As you can see, it's pretty much stops, it gets to a point and then it stays constantly at that particular value, which is not what we want. We want linear, which is kind of what we had before. We had this linear continuous propeller rotation. Now that's great, because that now means that we can take that key. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to take keyframe 2. No matter what I do with it, now it's in a linear continuous flow, so I can decide where I want it. And I would suggest, through a little bit of experimentation, I would suggest that the value there, if you put it to about 100, it kind of looks alright. I'm going to change the frame to the time to 2. And that kind of looks okay. I mean, you can increase it a little bit more, but the thing about animations, of course, is you get that kind of strobe effect. So sometimes if you get the number wrong, the strobe looks a little bit jumpy, but that, for our purposes, something around that value will do. So we've only had to make 2 keyframes, and we've got the animation running continuously. No matter if you change this animation to 1,000 frames long, the parameter out of curve type will keep the linear animation running over and over. Let's test that. Let's animate the hit play. We're going to go down to our time configuration button, and let's put in an end time of 1,000, which I've actually got in there. I'll put in an end time of 2,000 and hit OK. Now the animation is really long, and I've still only created 2 keyframes, but because I'm using the linear type and the linear out of curve range type. 2 keyframes will do it for us. Get a nice animation. Now, your task is to apply this to the propeller of the plane and see if you can make it rotate in this fashion. Okie doke.